Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. My guest this morning is Mr. Tony Opoyeton. He's a lawyer and a security consultant. And thank you as always for coming on, Tony. The kidnappings that we've been bedeviled with over the past decade, when you look at the latest incident that happened in Zamfara, now all the girls have been got back, 279. We're thankful for that, but I wanted to discuss with you the whole matter about how we got our girls back and to what extent does it matter. I'm referring here to the governor saying that they are negotiating with reformed bandits and that this is a very successful way and that they are going to continue in this way. Now, of course, you know, there's all sorts of, knowledge, official positions talking tough. We will not negotiate, we will not pay ransoms, and so on and so forth. But evidence is to the contrary that ransoms are being paid. And I wonder what you think about the sentiment of negotiating with reformed bandits. Is it that authorities are in a very tight corner and have no maneuver room given the objective of keeping the children alive, or that they're just breaking that moral injunction about you shall not negotiate with a thief who comes to your house and steals your stuff?
Good morning, your Uncle Yori, and good morning, viewers at home. The truth is, Uncle Yori, I'm particularly not too happy about what I call the economy of terrorism, the commercial aspect of terrorism in this country. Uncle Yori, if you remember, I was very emphatic with respect to the kidnap of the Kangara. No, yes, that it was purely business. And I remember that because, in the journalistic world, you want to say, do you have evidence and the like, and you try to. And by now, I'm sure that subjecting what is happening to the test of a reasonable man and mind, you cannot but agree that what is happening in the up north there is purely business, as in business. I stand to be corrected. The movement of 10 people requires some level of logistics, not to talk of movement of hundreds of students requiring logistics. And don't forget that we have area surveillance, we have the satellite imaging, we have a lot of technology that can do all those. Yes, I agree to the extent that the argument will be that a human shield and the like. But I will tell you something that if this thing does not involve the high and the mighty, if this act of kidnapping does not involve those that are benefiting from it and they have power to conceal and protect those that are perpetrating their own biddings, I will tell you that irrespective of the human shield, it will never go easy with the bandits or the kidnapper. It will never go easy with them. And I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I can imagine some of it because, look, you've just touched on the concept with the word logistics. It's a logistic nightmare to move almost 300 kids.
100, even 50.
Yes. And yet this was done successfully, and we're hearing all sorts of utterances now as to we know who they are. Sheikh Gumi, we've met with them.
Look, I don't want to talk about Gumi.
I didn't want to think about the individual here, but the whole concept about going out there into the underworld, so to speak, and negotiating with people who ordinarily are enemies of society. It's like they're operating above the law. And
it's too much of a pampering. It's too much of indulgence. And at the end of the day, it's going to boomerang. It will boomerang because you see
But can you see, sir, that in that statement that you've just made, there is the whole matter about whether or not a schoolgirl shall be retrieved alive or not. That has always been the covering, the covering upon which
the perpetrators will hide to perpetrate, and those that are going to use it for commercial purpose will also hide. But I'll tell you something. If the government is not involved, if those that are in power are not involved, and it is easy to be able to trace the kidnappers, look, it's not that difficult. There have been instances where government can even kidnap their own loved ones too. Release these children. They are giving you condition, for example. The condition is
I don't know about government, sir, but what you just said reminded me of one of the schoolgirls' testimony, who says she saw her own father on the other side when they were in captivity.
Yes.
I didn't know what to make of that.
No, I think she was saying that the father was part of the captive, that the father had been kidnapped earlier.
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes.
Okay.
The father was kidnapped earlier.
Okay, so not that he was one of them.
No, from what I read, the father, not that the father was one of them.
Okay,
but that the father had been kidnapped earlier. So it was the same camp that they kidnapped the father, that they also brought them. But the issue is this: this thing is not unknown to government. If Gumi can know where the hideout of bandits are, that means DSS know. That means the security apparatus and the agencies, intelligence agencies, they all know. Now look, if you are saying that there will not be collateral damage, and as a result of that, it keeps continuing. Now, to what extent have you now done, what have you taken a step to prevent the reoccurrence? Because if you look at what even the governor is saying we are negotiating with repentant bandits and we are ready to continue.
Yeah.
In other words, there is the anticipation and the tendency that it will happen again. And if it will happen again, we are still going to toe the same line. Now the question is, for how long are we going to continue in this type of methodology?
Exactly.
In this type of methodology, and put those children, the trauma they will go through, all because the pain they will go through, the psychological disorder they will go through. Some of them will never go back to school again, no matter what you say. Some parents will not return their children back to school again, no matter what you say.
Exactly.
And in a generation like this, where education is most important, for goodness sake, you are talking of a region impoverishing its own next generation because of economic gain, because of money.
And all this at the instance of bandits. So-called, that are funneling into the Boko Haram principle of no to education. So even if they say these are not Boko Haram, these are these are bandits, yet bandits are going to schools, and that is exactly on all fours with what Boko Haram wants. So where is the difference between Boko Haram and the bandits?
You know my own position about the issue of headers, bandits, Boko Haram, right from the word go. I've never declassified them as different. I've never classified them as different, as far as I'm concerned. I've always seen them.
A lot of analysts say it's important to establish, to distinguish between them. You hear some of your co-analysts saying that.
Well, you see, that's why I said we're of different perspective. I have always seen their signature as having a synergy. I've always seen their signature having synergy. And I've also seen over the years that the protective mechanism that is applicable to the three. The way they are being protected is the same. You will see the approach of those that are protecting them at every level, be it national, be it state, coming together to protect them at that same level. So as far as I'm concerned, I see them as from the same central control system.
Okay.
Being performing being different nomenclature. Don't forget that it was all the same. It was even the elites in the north that put pressure on the journalists to begin to do what? Give them different nomenclature. That no, they are not this. That no, they are this. If you remember that the issue of bandits arose in the middle belt then. So it's not as if initially we all called them the same name, Boko Haram. Over time, we had to now begin to differentiate because the elites in the north were putting pressure on you to do what? To begin to decentralize them, to begin to give them different nomenclature. But the issue is not the nomenclature. The issue is that their signatures are the same. Killing, maiming, raping, kidnapping, crime, heinous crime. And government approach has always been too protective.
Well,
it has always been the issue of, you know, we come, we talk tough in the media. We come, we say all manner of things in the media, and at the next thing, we are now coming cap in hand, begging these same people we are talking tough against. For goodness sake, it's paradoxical.
Well, indeed, I can follow you, but for instance, underlying what you've just said, the lead in the nation this morning happens to be Buhari orders crackdown on bandits and kidnappers as well as others. Yeah, we've been hearing about this.
No, I don't have problem with Mr. President ordering crackdown.
Yes.
But the crackdown must be balanced. You see, if you are ordering a crackdown, and the next thing I'm seeing you is you are pursuing IPOB, you are pursuing Sunday Igboho, and you are not pursuing the bandit with the same magnitude and the same tempo. Of course, it becomes lopsided, and it creates more problems.
We actually have a report. Let's just refresh with this report.
Excellency, the President has approved, based on our recommendation, the imposition and enforcement of a ban on all mining activities in Zamfara State with immediate effect until further notice. He has directed the Honorable Minister of Defense and the National Security Advisor to deploy massive military and intelligence assets to restore normalcy to that part of the country. He has also approved that Zamfara State be declared a no-fly zone with immediate effect. Now, all non-state actors that have been causing problems for the innocent peoples, not just in Zamfara State or the Northwest Zone, but also the Northeast and other parts of the country in the South-South, have been placed under surveillance by the intelligence agencies. This is a situation that has to be brought to an end, and I'm sending a warning to anybody who is hiding beneath a veneer of some status, whether official in terms of an official capacity or traditional or religious, to stoke the flames of disorder, will have himself to blame. The government is very, very serious about this anarchy. But I want to stress once more that any individual or group that thinks it can take it upon itself to cause disunity, disharmony, and to render this country, push the country to the brink. Any one person who thinks he's the cat's whiskers, or he can be Rocky on the perch and lead us into a situation of unhappiness, will have himself to blame at the end of.
Okay, NSA Mongono there, as it were, reading the Riot Act. Now it's like they're saying, the federal authorities are saying their patience is so thin, it's just about worn out, and so it's going to be what it's going to be. Now imagine that in all of this, especially as, we're talking about gold mines now, and it coinciding with Zamfara State that we're talking about, I suppose violence that's going on there is also captured under this pretty broad umbrella as well.
Now, you see, Uncle Yorila, you see, when the issue of gold was discovered in Zamfara, I was on this studio and I said something. I said, look, let Nigeria learn from the Democratic Republic of Congo, which happened to be one of the richest countries in Africa and also the poorest. Kaduna is also having its fair share, except for the fact that maybe it's not being reported the way it ought to be now. Gold is a natural resource that is of high value all over the world. And if you look at what is happening in Zamfara, I linked it and I said that, look, Zamfara over here, if there's no care is not taken, is going to dilapidate into a serious war zone. Because what foreigners will do, I don't want to mention country, but you know some of these countries, what they will do is they will arm your local boys, they will arm them against your own security agencies. Both of them will be fighting and they will be mining your mineral resources and taking them. So if they say Zamfara is a no-flying zone, understand the reason why they say Zamfara is a no-flying zone. You see, some of these things is difficult to fly them on the road because of the high value. And because of the fact that it is also illegal, they can be apprehended on the road and all those stuff like that. Now that is one aspect of it. So you understand that, look, beyond the issue of kidnapping, there's a serious security challenge that is going to brew in Zamfara state. So if the government is saying that, look, we are saying stoppage of economic activities that have to do with mining, it makes a lot of security sense. Indeed. A lot of security sense. Might
some of it spill over in terms of the heightened security in the state now to the subject of our discussion, which is what it takes in these criminal acts of kidnapping of children, anybody in fact, you know, do you think it might spill over and be of benefit to the quest in that region, which is to stamp this kind of thing out?
In terms of mining activities in Zamfara?
No, mining activities is to one side, and the NSA has just, you know, read the Riot Act. But it's also a security issue, kidnapping and the like. Might some of the enhanced security there, do you think, possibly just spill over to here?
My own is this.
But sir, let me just take, I think Mr. George has called in, so I can take a... Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Thank you for calling in.
I greet Tony as well.
Sure.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, this subject is becoming something else. Mining is the most crucial insecurity problem in Zamfara now, when we are talking about kidnapping of children from school. I don't know how to marry the two. The gang that has been kidnapping people there, are they the same people that are mining? I don't know. Maybe the NSA has better information. But in my view, what is worrisome to the Nigerian people at the moment is that of kidnapping. I don't know why the government didn't address that one directly. The kidnapping of students from schools that are not allowing children to feel like going to school again. People are not able to travel from one state to the other. That is the one that is very critical now. Why is he talking about mining? There should be some specific information. And things like this, a government official should come and face the press and take questions.
Indeed.
We're not saying that. We're not saying that here.
Okay.
I think that should be the issue now.
It really is key.
This insecurity is getting too much. And it's high time the government comes forward for questioning. The National Assembly invited the president to ask him questions. The Attorney General did not allow him to go.
Thank you for calling in, Mr.
Where are we
George.
going now?
Yeah. Thank you for calling in, Mr. George. You know, so
yes,
because
I understand his position.
And also, it was what I was also wondering, that we're not talking about the girls from a federal. Governor Matawale is saying what he is saying. As his strategy to getting them back. When we're hearing from the federal government, it's in connection with mining and nothing. That's why I'm saying that, well, maybe it's a very wide umbrella, and the enhanced insecurity will somehow affect the insecurity as it relates to kidnapping and all of that.
Definitely it will affect. I think his address was an omnibus address, talking about security, the imminent security challenges all over. And like you said, reading the Riot Act. But my own position is not basically reading the Riot Act. We've heard of several reading of the Riot Act. The outgoing Inspector General of Police also just read the Riot Act to IPOB and Eastern Security Network how many days ago. Those things, as far as I'm concerned, they are not as important as if you are at that top echelon as the NSC, for goodness sake, and you are having avalanche of all these security challenges. and you have not been able to identify the perpetrators, and you are coming to public to come and read Riot Act, do you think that those people understand the grammar, stalking, or the grandiloquent approach to security? Do bandits, can they demystify what you have said? Do they understand it? Who are their sponsors? Who are the perpetrators of this act? Who are those that are backing them up? The money that they are receiving, where is the money going to? Who is paying them? Can we start now investigating governors when they leave office? And can we start looking at their accounts, the security vote? Can we start asking how did they spend it? Okay. Now, if now somebody now say I didn't pay ransom, 5 years later he is now putting in his audited account ransom paid to kidnappers 20 billion naira. Then you now begin to ask him, but you said you didn't pay ransom. So if we have not if we did not begin to develop some of this principle of accountability, we keep having situations like this. So it's not a matter of the Attorney General saying that he's reading Riot Act. It's a matter of what are the machineries you have put in place to ensure, number one, that it's not going to happen again. Secondly, if it happens again, those that are involved are made example. I'm not talking of political examples. I'm not talking of people like Sunday Igboho, that 40 policemen, 40 DSS and the like will go and round up and it becomes a political or a tribal issue. Yeah. No, I'm talking of real criminals, identified criminals. Okay. But these are things that I'm looking forward to.
I understand. Well, I'm trying to also keep that vein of our conversation in here about the quandary government seems to be in getting our girls that are kidnapped safely back, to pay or not to pay. You know, that is the problem. To pay the ransom or not to pay the ransom. It's a challenge. You've spoken to it.
If you ask me to pay or not to pay, I'll tell you there are different approaches to it.
Okay, let me bring in Mazi Okorafor and then I'll come to you and you continue. Good morning, Mazi Okorafor. I beg your pardon. It is not Mazi, it's Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yori.
Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, let me break it down for Brother George. George don't understand the issue at hand. The business in the north is the business.
That's a strong statement to make. But carry on, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to break it down for Brother George, who don't understand the correlation between the miners and the kidnapping. What is happening in the north, you already have seen before, is business. The business of the north is between mining and kidnapping. The those are mining and those are kidnapping. They were well known. The governor of Zambia State has made it clear. And that's my stand. If we want kidnapping to stop in the north, we want Boko Haram to stop in the north, we must call the businessmen, the businesswomen, the pastors, the imams, the political leaders, and they come into agreement. It's pure business. Just don't understand that. Government don't understand it. It is business. The people that mining is people that kidnapping. The people that, paying ransom is people that mining. If you stop the business of it, the business of kidnapping will stop. The arm buying will stop. Do you know how much it takes to lay and the bomb they lay on the street? I don't know what they call it now. Tony will understand. This bomb they lay on the street and the farms. Mines. You know how much to buy mines? Mines. You know how much to buy it and lay it? The other day they throw bombs from very far to Medical Town. Do you know how much it takes to throw a long-range bomb? Do you know what it takes? It's business. Brother Church is supposed to know it's business. When you stop the business in the north, the business of kidnapping will stop, because kidnapping is a business to get more money from Nigeria. And the governor of Zambia State knows who they are. The governor of Zambia State knows the people. He has said it. We must hold him accountable to call those names, and according to Tony, we punish them and punish them for good. Okay. But I'm not sure that will happen. That will never happen in Nigeria today, because it's a business between the governed and the governed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. It goes back to the point you made at the very opening, Tony, that it's a business. Terrorism, so-called, is a business in Nigeria, particularly up in the north.
Now, if you know anything about what we call terrorism financing, you'll discover that kidnapping is one of the major sources of terrorism financing. It's a tool that is used to raise funds. It's also a tool that is used to release captives of terrorists that are captured by government security agencies. It's a tool for powerful negotiation. And that is why you say that when it comes to terrorism, the truth is that kidnapping may not stop, except you stop the act of terrorism instead by looking at those that are the backbone of these terrorists. Who are their sources? Be them sleeper cell, be those that are on the field, those that are at international level. Now, for me, it will take some time and most of the job are better done by the DSS. And once it's done, the DSS has concluded its job, and Mr. President signs it. Now the DMI, the DIAs, and the like, they come together with the service chiefs. They have a good security master plan. And those security master plans are expected to be executed simultaneously. Now, when you execute it for the Nigerian situation as it is now, if you ask me, I would say it is better that it's executed simultaneously. Why? Because if you are executed gradually, now the terrorists will have the opportunity of taking a step before you take the next step. But when you do everything simultaneously, almost at the same time, and you disorganize almost all their structures on ground.
And you think we have the resources so to do?
We do.
Okay. Femi in Surulere, good morning, sir. Thank you for holding on.
Well, good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
Yeah. My own issue is this. The $1 billion we gave the president to equip the military forces, how had they been spent? Not that they will come to the market to come and tell us. The National Assembly should be able to know how it has been applied and what has it been applied upon. Is it right? Is it wrong? Then we can now go forward to say, okay, we are going to give you another one. This is how you want to expend it. You cannot just come to the National Assembly and say, give me $1 billion, without specifying what exactly you want to use it for. If you look at the Nigerian Army today, how many military drones do they have? What are the plans for eye in the sky to monitor the movement within these areas in order to nip them in the bud before they carry out these things?
Okay, so what you are saying, if I understand you right, is that we need to be auditing what has been provided to the presidency, to the authorities, for this fight against corruption, against terrorism so far. We need to be auditing that and asking questions. And the people who can do that are, of course, the representatives of the people, the National Assembly.
That we gave them $1 billion. It is not for the running of the military forces. It's for equipment. What have you bought?
Yes. What has it got us? Okay.
Then if they have done something wrong, we tell them, this is wrong. This is the way forward. Then when they are calling for another money, they should be able to specify, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this.
I hear you.
You get what I'm saying?
Well, thank you very much.
If you look at our military, how many military drones do we have? These are things that will help us locating this movement. Now people with 100 machines, bike running and log certain places.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling in from Surulere, Femi. Well, that's Femi's position. So let's do something.
I think one thing I want us to quickly understand is that there are some equipment that the military can purchase and it will not be in public domain. There are some that are meant for psychological operations. There are some that are overt, there are some that are covert.
But that is it effective? I think effectiveness is Femi's main point. How effective or how judiciously, how effectively have they deployed resources made available?
I think the main problem for me is to what extent has the government been able to place value on human lives?
Okay.
Why I'm saying that is because, you see, the issue of effectiveness is there to the extent that it is discriminatory. Now, what I'm saying is this: if the son of a governor had been among those that were kidnapped, then it will shock you that we have the resources, we have the equipment that you are talking about, we have all the area surveillance, we have the eye in the air. All these things will be deployed to make sure that that child, that wife, is released. So in juxtaposition to the children of the common men or common citizen in quotes now. I think that is the difference as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced that we don't have it, but I am, convinced that the government is not really disposing the same attitude. It will if it involves the high and the mighty, vis-a-vis the ordinary citizen.
Okay, and that reminds me of Governor Matawale saying that if he were to mention the names of the guys behind these people...
If he did not mention the name, he's a participis criminis.
That if he were to mention the names, mouths would be, agape.
No, I mean, but as a governor, he should mention the name.
Dele Inaja, good morning, sir. Dele Inaja. I don't know why those kind of statements are made.
No, it's not the first time we've heard of such stories. Now, but the issue is, if you are the governor, it's either you are talking or you are quiet.
Good morning.
For you to say, if I mention the names, it's not the best.
They say Dele is there now. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning. Hello. Go ahead, please. Go ahead with your comment.
Hello.
Hello, Dele. Good morning. I think there's a problem with the line. If you can hear us, go right ahead.
Let us go back to when Boko Haram started in Genesis. It was our elite. And that is what has been happening throughout. The elite use these thugs to take over locations, take over areas, do their illegal activities. Now, they have tasted power, they tasted money. They can't control them anymore.
That line was really giving Dele Inaja some problems there.
I said they tasted power and they've tasted money and you can't control them anymore. And I concede to the fact that if a man truly tastes power and money, these two things are things that are very intoxicating to the extent that it will only take the grace of God for you to want to relinquish any. You know, and now that you are now in the mainstream of either power or money, which one do you want to live? And I think that shows that we are actually in some level of mess. I just pray and hope that those that are the home of affair will be futuristic. We're not talking of verbal patriotism. We're talking of, true patriotism. If you travel out of this country and you look at generational monuments, infrastructure that are built in Europe under governments, and it has always been successive like that over the years, with a broad master plan as to how the city will look like in 100 years. And irrespective of the political power that comes in place, you discover that at the end of the day, they still maintain that principle. I think it's high time we begin to emulate things like that.
Indeed, and I suppose when we get to the level of governance, such as all of this is not necessary anymore, I suppose that would be the real cherry, the real plum on top of it all. Thank you very much, Tony. Mr. Tony, security consultant and legal practitioner, DG of International Institute of Professional Security. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And it's like day 2 of the arrival of the vaccines that have been long awaited in Nigeria. They arrived yesterday. There was a slight delay, but they arrived. The AstraZeneca, vaccines have arrived. And we have our health expert, Mr. Ajoku Amadiobi. He's joining us remotely. Good morning, Ajoku.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming, for making time for us. Now that we have the vaccines, the next port of call, that's the conversation that I'm hearing now, is the equitable and efficient distribution of these vaccines around our society. Are you satisfied with the plan? Is there a plan? Because some commentators have said that they wish they knew a lot more about it than we do right now.
First of all, the vaccine itself can be stored at 4 degrees. This is really like refrigerator temperature. So the cold chain storage system that we have in Nigeria can handle that. We have used that for polio, and we have used that for our previous vaccinations. So the infrastructure is really there to be able to handle that.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the equitable distribution, of course, this is still in the early stages. I have looked through what is available at the moment. Priority is given to those healthcare workers and those who are at points of high contact with coronavirus. I think that is the best strategy at the moment to be able to distribute the few vaccines that we've got so far.
A medical doctor, we were talking about this yesterday, felt that he wasn't clear about what our strategy is in our country. Is the objective is it our objective to cut out transmission or lower transmission, or is it to prevent deaths? And he felt that it was necessary to have a clear-cut view of whatever strategy it is that we're adopting, so that all hands can be on deck towards that effect. Now, do you share in this kind of reasoning that we have to be that clear in our strategy, because it's a beneficial thing, but now that the doctor is segmenting it into, do you want to lower infection or do you want to reduce deaths? How say you to that particular question?
Now, we are faced with a bit of a quandary. We do not have enough vaccines. So our approach should really be targeted to maximize the use of the vaccines that we have. So focusing on those who are at direct contact with the vaccine, or who are most likely to be in contact with that, would be the best approach. That way, for one, you're likely to reduce the spread of it, because those are the ones that will be directly in front of, in contact. Now, especially the healthcare workers, I'm a medical doctor myself, so I do sympathize with that. That is the priority, because they are the frontline workers in this area. So you need to focus on doing that. Now, in terms of what is the focus, is it in reducing transmission? Is it in reducing morbidity and mortality? Now, that question is mute based on the number of vaccines we have. The best thing would be to target those to whom it will have maximum benefit, and that would be those who are really at the forefront of tackling this pandemic.
Okay, it's good that. By the way, thank you for that additional also correction, Dr. Amadobi. Glad to have you on. So we can store it. We don't have anywhere near enough because we just had slightly less than 4 million that came in. And when you look at what we have to do, the other question to ask perhaps is. Look, this whole question of reticence by some in society, in our society here, how significant is it? And by that, I'm sure you understand, well, I hope you understand that. What I mean is there are naysayers to the vaccine. There are conspiracy, people who are telling us all sorts of things. How big a section of our society would you guess that is? Those that are saying that you can't get me to take the vaccine.
Yes, this pandemic has been quite challenging in terms of public health messaging in general. What causes COVID, how to prevent it, and all that. These are important public health challenges. But in terms of the vaccine, I'm not very sure that it actually holds much relevance. We are not likely to get enough vaccine to be able to extend it to those who are doubting. We will probably just have barely enough to vaccinate those who are really queuing to get the vaccine. Okay. So really focusing on those who are doubting is really not is a moot point, really. So I think the important thing is that we need to get the public health messaging out there, for people to actually take the necessary precautions that are needed. That is the most important thing in terms of policy. In terms of vaccination, I doubt that we will get enough vaccines to extend it to have to to people who are anti-vaxxers, really.
Okay, okay. And part of the reason of those guys, generally speaking, is that, look, there are still issues, there are illnesses that we've been struggling with for decades. No answer. And here we come along in less than a year, we say we have a vaccine. Say, come on, you know, that's not the way medical science goes. I don't know, quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on the point, but what did you say to that?
Yes, I think perhaps 2020 has been a landmark here in terms of vaccine technology and what has been able to be achieved. It is incredible, and I do understand the doubters of what has already been achieved. Now, we need to point out also the fact that this vaccine is an emergency use authorization vaccine. So it's still, even in terms of vaccine development, is not fully, completely developed as a vaccine. Now, the thing that made it so quick for this vaccine to be developed is that the technology is totally different from anything we have used in regular vaccines before. It is an mRNA vaccine, there's a DNA vaccine. So usually regular vaccine involves you're taking an antigen and injecting it in somebody and they respond to it. Either the whole vaccine or, you know, either a live vaccine, a live virus or a killed virus or parts of it. But this is a totally new concept. What is done here is that you create an mRNA, which is really something that provides the protein itself. So you inject the mRNA and the body actually provides the protein. This is a totally different technology, which means that you can actually develop targeted vaccines within a very, very short time. So we are looking at a paradigm shift in how we are developing technologies, vaccines. Yeah. So moving forward, it will be much easier. As you can see, this coronavirus mutates very quickly. We can get, we now have different mutations of the virus itself.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the good thing about this mRNA vaccine is that you can develop a different vaccine that targets that particular one. So it's very quick turnaround, which is as a result of the new technologies that are available to us now.
Okay. Dr. Amadiobi, one moment, please, while I take a phone call coming in from Mazi Okorafo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Dr. Amadi. I want us to look at this issue of vaccine. What are the side effects of this vaccine? Because there's no medicine that you take in the market or you buy anywhere that doesn't have side effects. What are the side effects? That's number one. Number two, education is very, very important to educate Nigerians and enlighten Nigerians on this vaccine. Because 70% of Nigerians, go and do research for it. 70% does not believe on this vaccine because look at the duration of production. Because it takes a research up to 3 to 4 years to come out with it. But this one, hurry, rush. Now,
okay, Mazi. Let's get the doctor to relate to your question, Mazi. What are the expected side effects, Dr. Amadiobi?
Let us boost our immune.
Now, the expected side effects are similar so far. Now, that is actually an aspect of the vaccine that has been fully, the side effect profile of the vaccine is something that has been well defined. You cannot inject such things into human beings before you have done proper safety profiling of the vaccine. That is an area that has been well hashed out, even before you give an emergency use authorization. Now, in terms of the side effects are really generally divided probably into the local increased pain in that area, and of course the response of your body to the vaccine itself. Once it is injected into your body, you develop an inflammatory response, which is natural, which is actually what it is supposed to do. So some people might have headaches, some have had fever. Some of the doctors here have actually had to take some time off just because they had fever and they had headaches, but those things resolve.
Okay.
So
I take another phone call now, Dr. Amadiobi. I beg your pardon. I got to take another phone call from the UK. Good morning, Mr. Ade.
King of presenter, how are you today?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, this vaccine is very good. I told you I've taken mine since last month. There are, to the best of my knowledge, no side effects. So it's a good vaccine. Here in the they will tell you 2 days after you have slight temperature, or you might not. I didn't have any temperature. So some may have slight temperature, but nothing much. So it's a good let people take it.
Okay.
There's no alternative than this vaccine. So they should take this vaccine. It's very important. I support this vaccine. It's fully developed. My people should not be afraid. Mr. Yori, go and take yours tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ade. When you added the sentence, it is fully developed. Let me take that matter straight to Dr. Madiobi. As that contributor just said, it's fully developed. What will be your comment as a scientist?
Fully developed, the process of vaccine development, like I said, it has emergency use authorization, which means that it is not fully authorized for vaccination, really. So a vaccine goes through various stages. At the stage at which it is now, because we are in a pandemic, we have to give it emergency use authorization, which means that the safety profile is well known. What is not properly known is, what it's like in real life use. When he says that it's fully developed, what it probably means is that the vaccine itself is fully. We know exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. What we do not know is we do not know how it performs in real life. Although there are newer studies now that are showing that it's about as effective as is expected.
Yeah.
So it will now go into the next stage of approval.
Because at least in terms of leading from the front, you see country leaders across the world taking the vaccine publicly, high-ranking officials, influencers, as they are called in social media nowadays, yes. And everybody is just, as it were, doing the responsible thing. And taking the vaccine, even if there are those that are still a bit afraid. There are some who are still a bit afraid, and there are some who are so afraid that they're actively campaigning against taking of the vaccine. But the better wisdom, of course, is that you got to go ahead and do this. In fact, it might even be enforced, because I'm hearing that there might be contraptions such as you might be cut out of certain services if you cannot show evidence of having been vaccinated. It might be jobs, it might be travel, it might be whatever it is. They just want to see that you have been vaccinated. Is that the way to go, Doctor?
Well, there are precedents for this. We've always had a yellow card for travel, where you show your vaccination. It didn't just start with coronavirus, but it is important that we're able to stop this lockdown. And if we're going to stop the lockdown, we have to show evidence that the pandemic is not going to continue. Putting those things in place would be important to actually get us all back outside and doing what we do as normal human beings instead of sitting at home. So these are things that are set in place for us to be able to get back to normal, and they are acceptable.
Okay, because these are conventions all around the world. It isn't the first time that this has happened before. Yes. Now, how worried should we be, how concerned should we be about reports that there are additional strains of the main virus, the research of which the vaccines we have now are based on research into those. Now they say there are new strains. The fact that we are far away from those strains, does that give us sufficient, sufficient confidence to say that it doesn't matter for us if we stay put, if we don't travel to where those extra strains are?
No. Those strains are named based on where they have the scientific resources to identify them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they originated there. We could find a Nigerian virus that is discovered in the UK, and they call it the UK variant. This virus knows no borders. But like I said, it is important to note that this virus is not unique in that sense. This is something that happens with the flu virus every year. You have to take a vaccine for virus every year in Europe and North America. That is because the virus mutates very fast. But the advantage we have now is that we have the resources to actually react and produce vaccines at very short notice to tackle those things. They are doing that now. The Moderna are already designing vaccines that can tackle those ones. And even the current ones, there are suggestion that if you have a third dose of, you might be able to cover those ones.
Okay.
So there are things that can be done to do that, to ameliorate the effect of these new strains.
Okay. I'll take a call now from Uche. Good morning, Uche.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling. You got a question for Dr. Amadiobi?
Yeah, I just want to ask the general question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The general question is, this vaccine, the vaccine they are talking about,
Uche, go ahead, please.
what I was trying to say is that the vaccine they are bringing now, will it stop this coronavirus completely?
Okay, Uche, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Uche. I get the point. It's a very important point. Let me just put it straight to Dr. Amadiobi. You might have heard him. Will the vaccine stop corona dead in its tracks?
Now, the answer will be a bit more nuanced. Like I said, we're going to be, it will be reduced to such an extent that we'll be able to get back into normal activities.
Okay.
But I doubt that the corona vaccine is ever going to leave, the coronavirus is ever going to leave us.
And when one has taken the vaccine, is the problem removed? You can't infect anybody anymore because you have been vaccinated, or can you still transmit the vaccine after being vaccinated?
Now, that's a very good question. That answer is actually being, investigated at the moment. Now, there is what we know so far about the result of vaccination is that, one, it reduces the severity of the disease. It reduces the incidence of the disease. It reduces hospitalization. But with regards to it being transmitted to others, that is still something that is being investigated at the moment. There isn't any clear answer to that.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Ajoku Amadiobi, for making time for us this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our program. We'll see you tomorrow with a fresh edition, God willing. Keep all the COVID-19 protocols, social distancing, masking, washing of hands, not going into unnecessary crowds and all of that. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. I'm Yori Folari. Bye-bye for now.